Councillors, the time is now 6:30 and I will declare the meeting open. I advise the public that this meeting is being webcast and members of the gallery may have their voice and image captured. By attending, you consent to being captured, recorded and webcast. Any statements made by individual persons during the course of this meetings are the statements of those individuals and not of council. You should refrain from making any defamatory remarks or making comments about another individual without their consent. Council accepts no liability for any statements made by individuals during the course of the meeting. In the event of an emergency or the fire alarm sounding, please remain calm and wait for the instructions from the General Manager and Council officers. If we need to evacuate the building, Council's emergency muster point during Council meetings is the lower car park. In the event of a medical emergency, please alert Council staff for assistance. Council acknowledges the Wanneroo people as the traditional custodians of this land we are meeting on today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. We also acknowledge the Awabakal people to the east and the Darkinjung people to the south, and other Aboriginal peoples who now live within the Cessnock local government area. For the council prayer today, I would like to welcome Pastor Amanda Francis to perform the prayer. Please come forward. Councillors, please stand.
Thanks. I'm Amanda Francis. I'm the pastor of New Vine Vineyards Church out at Brankston, and I live out there, and I've just seen the beautiful local park there. I also work as a community nurse one day a week, and I recently had the pleasure of going to Moldova and helping set up a clinic there for the Ukraine refugees, which was fantastic. And they just had a community park open there. It's their first park, and the European Union had given them money. So every time I look at the park at Huntley, I'm reminded of them. And, you know, it's just a real blessing to be in this city. So I'm going to use the prayer that is the council prayer, and I'll say amen, and then I'm just going to add to it if that's okay. Most gracious God, we pray for the council of the city of Cessnock, its members and officers. Direct their work and influence their decisions to the advancement of your glory and the safety and welfare of this city, so that peace and happiness, truth and justice, and sound development may be established amongst us through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for each member on this council. I thank you, Lord, for the hard work that they do. I thank you that we have a government that works, Lord, a council that works, Lord, systems that work in our country, Lord. I pray your blessing on each person here. Lord, as we work for the city of Cessnock, I'm conscious, Lord, of so many people that are in their homes, that are lonely, that are locked away, Lord, that are struggling, that are suffering with people that are dying, Lord, loved ones. Lord, for those that are addicted and homeless amongst us. Lord, for marriages that are struggling, for families that are struggling to pay bills, Lord. For kids, Lord, that are at school and just struggling to be at school, Lord. It might be bullied, Lord, or just struggling to keep up with the work. Lord, for those that are disadvantaged in our community. Lord, we work for those people and we pray your blessing on those people, that we might put them first in our decisions, Lord, that we might have a heart for those people. Lord, we just thank you for each person here tonight. I thank you for them and pray your blessing on them. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Francis. So, in receipt of apologies, I will note that a leave of absence was granted for Councillor Watton from the 8th of November to the 30th of November inclusive, and moving that a leave of absence be granted to Councillor Jackson from the 1st of December to the 14th of February 2023. Someone moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Hawkins. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Moving the minutes of the previous meetings. Confirmation of both sets of minutes. Moved Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Sander. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Disclosures of interest. Councillor Hawkins.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report WI 73/2022. I, James Hawkins, declare a non-pecuniary interest less than significant conflict for the reason that I live in the vicinity of the school in item TC 40/2022. I choose to remain in the chamber and participate in discussion and voting as the conflict does not influence me in carrying out my public duty because the matter doesn't affect my ability to carry out my public duty. Thank you. I choose to remain in the chamber. Vote.
Thank you. No further disclosures? No. There are no petitions to my knowledge. Move on to public address. We'll now invite our representative from the audit office, Cameron Hume from RSM. So we'll just invite Cameron on. And you're right to go, Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor, and councillors for the opportunity to present tonight on the audit 30 June 2022 audit of Cessnock Council. My name's Cameron Hume. I'm a partner with RSM Australia. We're the contract auditor for the Audit Office of New South Wales, who has the responsibility of completing the audits throughout the sector in New South Wales. So I've got a presentation. I'm just checking. Would you like me to share my screen or?
Yes, that would be preferable.
Right, thank you. So, just confirming that you can see the lead slide there.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that. I'm here tonight to talk to the audit of Cessnock Council for the year ended 30 June 2022. Before I jump into that, I'd just like to cover off on the work programs that the Audit Office of New South Wales performs in audit, completing its audits throughout the sector. The Audit Office of New South Wales, their focus is on integrity. Planned areas of focus for their audits in the local government sector are integrity, ethics in public administration, value for money, and appropriate use of public funds, risk identification and mitigation, good governance and controls, comprehensive record keeping, transparency and evaluation. In the past 18 months, 2 years, there has been a focus on the response to emergencies in New South Wales, dating back to the bushfires, COVID, and the more recently the floods, the response, recovery, and impact. A new area of focus for the Audit Office is on cyber security. This year, for the first time, they've looked into the impact of cyber security and their approach is to look at the local council sector, how they've responded to risks with cyber security. And in future, there'll be a deeper dive performance audits in cyber security and how councils across the sector, local councils are managing that risk. The work program, there's a short-term and a more longer-term program. Short-term for next year, there'll be the annual audits of the local government sector, financial audits, a focus on effectiveness of financial management and government, and a selection of councils, cyber security and local government, and where applicable, coastal management reforms. The longer term, they'll be managing the code of conduct, road asset maintenance, managing climate risks to assets and services, effectiveness of financial management and performance management and monitoring and audits of issues within particular councils. For the year just gone, the year ended 30 June 2022, the focus on the report to Parliament that the Audit Office will issue late December or in January. Is looking at the audit results across the sector, looking for key themes or issues within the management letters of councils to report on, and their focus on cyber security, information technology, general controls, and asset management and valuations. I'll now jump into the discussion on the audit, the report of the conduct of the audit. Council has formed a view that, in regard to the audit report that was issued in October, Council has formed the view that it does not control the rural fire service assets and should not include them in their financial statements. The New South Wales Auditor General has formed a view that Council does control these assets. As there's a difference of opinion there, it's resulted in a qualification in the audit report that was issued in October. As some would be aware, this is a topic which affects many councils in the state and will be an area of ongoing discussion in the future. As part of the audit process, Council's Audit Risk Committee review and endorse the financial statements and result of the audit prior to the Council issuing the financial statements. The next slide here is a snapshot of the income statement of Council for the 30 June 2022 year. As can be seen there, rates and annual charges revenue of $59.2 million increased by $3.3 million or 5.9% on 2021. The two main reasons for this increase was the annual rate peg increase applied to ordinary rates of 2% and an increase of $1.1 million in domestic waste management service revenue. Grants and contributions revenue of $66.7 million increased by $7.2 million on 2021, mainly due to an increase of $2.8 million from financial assistance grant revenue, increase of $2.1 million from non-cash asset dedications to Council, and a further increase of $2.7 million from developer contributions revenue. The Council's operating result from continuing operations of $50.4 million does include depreciation and amortisation at the expense of $15.3 million. It was $13.8 million higher than 2021. This was mainly due to the increased revenue from user charges and fees and rates, grants and grant revenue. This was partially offset by an increase in material and service expenses of $5.3 million and other expenses of $3.7 million. The net operating result before capital grants and contributions of $600,000 was $10.6 million higher than the 2021 result, mainly due to the increased revenue and expenses as discussed above. The next slide here looks at Council's cash equivalents and investments at the end of 30 June 2022. As can be seen, this has increased from the $54.8 million to $73.9 million in 2022. The composition of these cash and investments is split between external restrictions, which are restrictions placed on councils that these funds have to be used for specific purposes, and then there's internal allocations of council of $36.6 million. Council had $5.1 million of borrowings at 30 June 2022, down from $6.7 million in the prior year. The Office of Local Government provides 6 performance measures that Council has to calculate, and these are included in the annual financial statements. At the back of the financial statements, there's 6 there. Council has achieved 5 out of those 6. The first ratio there is the operating performance ratio, which measures how well Council contained operating expenditure within operating revenue, excluding capital grants and contributions. The benchmark set by the OLG is greater than 0%. Council achieved 3.4% in the year. The own source revenue operating revenue ratio measures Council's fiscal flexibility and degree in which it relies on external funding sources such as operating grants and contributions. The benchmark set by the OLG is 60%. Council just missed that benchmark this year with 55.6%. The unrestricted current ratio is specific to local government and represents council's ability to meet short-term obligations as they fall due. The benchmark set by the LG is 1.5 times. Council achieved 3.7 times in the year. The debt service cover ratio measures the operating cash to service debt, including interest, principal, and lease repayments. The benchmark is set at 2 times. Council achieved 10.9 times. The rates and annual charges outstanding percentage assesses the impact of uncollected rates and annual charges on council's liquidity and adequacy of debt recovery efforts. The benchmark is set at 10%. Council achieved 6.8%. Final ratio there is the cash expense cover ratio. This liquidity ratio indicates the number of months that council could continue paying for its immediate expenses without additional cash flow. The benchmark set by the Office of Local Government is 3 months. Council achieved 10.2 months, so well above the minimum. Infrastructure, property, plant and equipment renewals. Council reported asset renewals of 6.2 million in the 2022 year compared to 1.5 million in the 2021 year. Significant renewals included the road asset renewals of 5.3 million, up from 100,000 in the prior year. That's my report. Happy to take questions on the audit process or the financial statements.
Thank you, Cameron. Are there any questions, Mr. Hume? Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, I've only just got 2 quick questions. First one was about grants, Cameron. $66.7 million worth of grants. We really rely on government grants to survive. With state and federal governments both going broke, the grants are going to slow down. How do you see that impacting our council?
Councillor, well, it's more a question for probably the management team to answer. I do know that the management, as you would be aware, council provides long-term forecasts, budgeting and reporting on those, and the continuation of that process will assist council in tracking their financial viability against the impact that there may be on those grants in the future. Yes.
Okay, so just the other question I've got, at the end of the budget you said we got a surplus of 600,000. We sold a block of land for 4.5 million that was valued at 1.5 on our books. That gives us that a $3 million cash surplus. If we didn't sell that land, we wouldn't have that $600,000. Do you see that being a problem ongoing if we to meet our to keep a balanced budget?
Councillor, it's probably not my position to opine on what will happen in the future. That's more a question for the management team. Yes, sorry.
No, thank you.
Okay, no other questions of Mr. Hume. Let's thank him for his presentation. We'll now call Jennifer Hayes to speak on this report as well, CC86, the annual financial statements. And Jennifer is the independent chair of Council's Audit and Risk Committee. She'll be speaking on this item, and then we'll ask her to come back up to speak on another item later on. So, on the financial statements, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for having me. I'm, as Mayor Saval said, I'm your chair of your independent audit. Your independent chair of your Audit and Risk Committee. I'm on my second term of that committee, and I'm joined by 2 other independent members, Damien Connor and Bill Middleton. and we often have the pleasure of Councillor Painter and the Mayor that join us at that committee as well. We meet 5 times a year and consider a range of matters from risk to financials, emerging risks, privacy, so quite a breadth of emerging risks and financial matters that we help provide assurance and assist you in doing your duties as council. You've just heard from the auditor, from Cameron Hume, on behalf of the Audit Office. I think the first thing that I'd like to add around the financial position, you can look at a set of financial statements at a point in time, but I think the independence and the assurance that I can give you as a council, the balance sheet is strong, the financial ratios are strong, and this is at a time when COVID has hit our community and many are in hardship. And times are tough. So I think for Cessnock Council to come out on the other side with strong cash reserves and a strong balance sheet means that you have got good resilience for the future. You can look at profit as a single number, and profit can bounce around year by year, and it will continue to bounce around year by year. So important metrics from an assurance point of view to look at is what are your cash from operations, and your cash from operations are strong. Right, and that needs to continue to be strong, and it is. So that's some, I guess, some comfort and assurance for the council and the community to take away that we are heading into the years ahead and heading into the unknown and some volatility that still exists in our economy with a pretty good starting spot. So I just wanted to share that important message on behalf of the committee. The second one, you'll hear that the auditor mentioned that we have a qualified audit opinion. Having a qualified audit opinion is not good. So essentially a qualified audit opinion in its purest sense means that the auditors are qualifying, giving this a true and fair view of the financial position. I think importantly on that, and that is potentially what could be seen as a stakeholder or community risk from a reputational point of view, importantly this is about one particular item, which is about the rural fire service assets. And the committee absolutely endorse and support the position by council that we don't believe that the rural fire service assets are council assets and should be in the accounts. We are joined by a number of other local government councils that are also taking that position, and I think intentionally taking that very clear view that this council has and joining with those other councils that have also taken that position, hopefully we'll get some resolution above us where that needs to be resolved at a state level. So I think that's a really important point, that although it's a qualified audit opinion, it is purely about this one particular issue and that we don't believe the rural fire services are those of ownership and control of council. So that's a very important point, that the committee support the council's position on that. In relation to the other fun things that we do in the audit and committee, risk is certainly one that is volatile and moving around with a lot of emerging risks that have either prompted us from a macro perspective, from COVID, from remote working, and a lot of other range of things. You would have heard Cameron talk about the attention to cyber. Cyber, and particularly with people and businesses now doing things a lot more remotely than perhaps what they have in the past. That's certainly something that we are having our eyes to at a committee. When I first joined the committee, we weren't, for example, receiving updates on IT. We now have a regular part of our agenda where we are getting an IT update on risk. We have internal audits on risk, and as you've just heard, externally, they are now looking at cyber as a risk as well as part of the external audit. So external audit, internal audit, committee reviews, and your management controls as well. So that's an emerging risk that I thought just was a very important one just to bring to the attention of council and the community as well. I don't think we can ever stop the human element that happens from cyber threats. But hopefully we are taking all of the right steps we can in terms of the systems and the controls that we can put in place to minimise it if and when it does happen. I'm very happy to take any questions on behalf of the Audit Committee or the financial statements that we recommend are adopted today.
Okay, questions from Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, just one question. You said our financial position is very strong. Can you tell me then why we need to spend over $100 million to get our road network up. If our financial position is so strong, why is our road network in such poor condition?
So, sorry, I didn't hear the second part of that question. So why?
Why is our road network in such deplorable condition and falling apart, but you're saying we're so financially, such in a great financial position?
So I think when we look at financial statements, we're looking at them, do they present a true and fair view of the financial performance of the council? What you have in front of you that we're recommending and that the auditors have audited is that the numbers, as at 30 June 2022, are a true and fair view of the financial position of the council. In terms of actions around capital delivery and programs, I'd certainly suggest that's a question of management. It would be outside the remit of the council of the independent committee to be making decisions on the timing and the delivery of capital works.
Just to follow on from that then, to say we're in a financially strong position is on paper, not on assets.
What I had suggested was in the balance sheet. The balance sheet is in a strong financial position with strong cash reserves. You're hitting your financial performance metrics. It's creating you a good foundation for a resilient and sustainable future.
Next question from Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jenny, for coming up tonight. I was going to wait till the next report, but since the audit office have touched on it, I'll bring it up now. Just with respect to cyber security and funding and the assurances that internal audit go through, I'm just wondering, given everything that's happened over the last 12, 18 months with all of the big things that have happened that we're all aware of, is there going to be a case where we need to invest a lot more into cyber security at Cessnock than we currently are?
A personal opinion, not on behalf of the committee, so I'll start with a personal opinion first. I think cyber is around us and upon us all, and I think recent happenings with Medicare and Optus are certainly evidence that it happens to the biggest and the best of businesses in Australia as well, so no one is immune. So what can we do? So what can we do is look at our systems and our processes to make sure that any gaps are addressed. It's important we continue to train and build awareness of staff, because the number one avenue is the human gateway. So reinforcing training, building training programs, making sure that working with the community, we're understanding the data that we hold and why we hold it and where it's held. So from a committee's perspective, we will continue to challenge and test management around those procedures about what data we have, where it's held, the security around that, and making sure that they're continuing to do the testing and the training with their staff to keep it top of mind. I don't think this is something that's going to go away. It certainly feels like, from a personal opinion, it's a matter of when. It's just how we can mitigate it and keep it as small and manageable as possible when it does happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mayor. This is my first term, so this is all new to me as well. I'm hearing what you're saying, but it's hard to agree with what you're saying, because every sort of meeting we've had, briefing we've had, like we've been told multiple times, that our council is struggling for money. So it's hard to see it on paper when we've been told by our finance people that if we don't start making some money, getting some assets, we're going to have to start cutting, not looking after our parks. Our roads are already falling apart and we can't fix them because we haven't got the money. So you get what I'm trying to say. It's a bit hard to believe these reports when we know that we've been told all the time that we don't have the money.
Is there a question coming there? Just because we're just remind we're not here to actually debate
I want to know how
the report.
Sorry, but I just want to know how, when we're told this, that we don't have the money, how the reports can say otherwise.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for first term and asking questions like this. So I think it's really important to help build awareness and understanding. Financials are always an interesting thing. What you have in front of you today is a position at a point in time, looking backwards. The very second, very important part about finances is today and looking forward, and that's the budgeting process. So The assistance that you look for us from a committee is to provide assurance and guidance around what's reported in this, which is a historical look and at a point in time. The second part, which is largely in the management domain, which is in the management domain, is what does the future look like and how do we budget for success in the future? So those kind of decisions and those trade-offs are with management to recommend to you. That is not something that I would certainly see as an advisory role from a governance and assurance and risk perspective of the committee that I'm part of. What we present today, though, is saying as at 30 June, this is a true and fair view, the balance sheet is strong, it gives you good opportunity for the future to leverage off to whatever comes next, but that doesn't consider the challenges that may be ahead in terms of rate pegs or whatever that might be from a budgeting point of view. So I think the suggestion or the response that I would give you, it's in two parts: historical and the budget. The budget is the discussion I think that you're seeking to have, and that's I don't think my role to present to you today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Moores.
Thank you, Matt. Can I just quickly pick your brain? Are we talking about the basic figure at the end? Is this including property as well as cash, or are you just talking cash?
So in your balance sheet, it'll include both. So it includes the assets that you own and the cash that you hold.
Yeah. So we could have, as you say, we could have plenty of money, but it could be all in assets.
Yes.
So it doesn't mean that we're millionaires at the end of the day.
But to that point as well, there is still a significant cash balance, which yet some is committed, so there is still a healthy cash balance. Yep. The financial ratios are good, so that is the other thing to look at. So we have more assets than we have liabilities.
So
it is a good, solvent position to be in.
Pre-councillors before us have done
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions. Let's thank Ms Hayes for the presentation. We'll now move to dealing with this report, and then we'll probably call Ms Hayes back up to talk about the next report. So we'll move to report CC 86 2022, the annual financial statement. Moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Dunn. Debate, Councillor Olsen.
I have a number of questions from the annual financial statement. If I could get them answered, please. Page 26 of 94, or 261 in our supplementaries. On there it says legal expenses. Legal expenses, planning and development, 578,000. Legal expenses, other, 215,000. That's 215,000 gone from 156. Can you explain what the $215,000 for other legal expenses are, please? If you can't do it tonight, can I get a written response to it?
Can I? I'll ask the director in a second to refer, but can I suggest that in future circumstances, when you have these questions listed off, Councillor Olsen, that you do provide them in writing prior to the meeting, as it is noted in section 9.17 of the Code of Meeting Practice, that a question is entitled to be given reasonable notice.
And what if they don't get reasonable notice? What happens if you don't get reasonable notice?
Then it can be taken on notice and provided.
Well, that's what I just said, didn't I? That's what I just said. If he hasn't got the information here, a written response for every cent that's in that $215,000, that is a lot of money that we're putting down as others. So I just want an answer on that, please.
So the director.
Thank you, Councillor Olsen. I don't have that at the tip of my fingers, but I certainly will take that on notice.
Yep, okay, thank you. I also point out that I only got home on Monday. I never got the paperwork until last night, onto the computer last night to read it, so I haven't had the time to go through it all. On the page 262 or 27 of 94, there's borrowing costs there, and it says total interest-bearing liability costs. Now, does that include all the interest we pay on internal borrowings?
Director.
Thank you. Councillor Olsen, if the figure you're referring to is 176,000?
Yeah.
That is interest on external loans.
Sorry? That's only external. So where do we account for the internal borrowings?
Director.
Thank you, Councillor Olsen. If we have any use of internal reserves that involve a repayment to, that is recorded within our financial budgeting documents as a transfer to and from reserve, and they do not get captured in these financial statements.
So if we borrow from restricted funds and we pay it back with interest, we don't account for that. Is that what you're saying?
Director.
Thank you, Councillor Olsen. Within our internal accounts, we record it, and we, from a budget perspective and an actual perspective, but as financial statements, they are external accounts, and they do not record internal transfers to and from reserves.
So where do I find internal transfers in the budget, in this statement?
Director.
Thank you, Councillor Olsen. The internal transfers to and from reserve are recorded within our budget documents. The statements, annual financial statements, are the financial results as at last year at the 30th of June, and as I just indicated, they are not recorded in that document.
So we don't record any internal borrowings, interest rates we pay.
We're
I'm
not here
going to
to
clarify this, Mayor, because I've argued this before. Any time we borrow money, I don't know about you, but if I borrow money, I've got to pay it back. And it doesn't matter if it's internal or external, it costs us money. So I'm just trying to clarify where I find it in the budget. And I don't know if any other councillor here knows where to find it or ever thought of asking for it. So I'm trying to clarify it. If I can't get an answer, that's fine. I'll move on to the next one. I've got another issue. Page 53 of 94 or 288 in the supplements, employee benefits. They're going down over $1 million for the last 12 months. Why?
Director.
Thank you, Mayor Savelle. Councillor Olsen, there could be a range of reasons for that. That could be that people have taken leave in that period, which would be the main reason for it going down, or they have left council's employ and we no longer record that liability within our accounts.
Can I get a written response on that, please? Where it's gone?
Excuse me, Councillor Olsen, what do you mean by where it's gone?
You've just given me a could be. You haven't given me an exact answer. So
The reason, Councillor Olsen, the employee benefits there are what we have to book as what we owe our staff as at the 30th of June. So if I don't have an employee that's no longer with us, I won't owe them any money for any accrued leave. So the accrued leave that is recorded there is what we owe our employees as at the 30th of June 2022 for their accrued leave entitlements. Whether if it's gone down or up would depend on the amount of entitlements accrued by employees or used by employees. And I will not be giving out a listing of individual employees to any councillor outside of
what you're saying. What you're saying there is the $9,387,000 of employee benefits will cover all long service, sick leave and annual leave of all staff of Cessnock Council.
Director.
The figure in there is what the calculation was as at the 30th of June, which is what we owed all our employees for their leave entitlements.
Simple yes or no would have done.
Councillor,
I asked the question, does that cover all employee benefits?
And Councillor, I will again remind you that council officers are entitled to be given notice of these questions, and section 9.18 of the thing, which requires you to put the questions both respectfully and without argument, and section 9.19 that does not permit discussion or debate around these questions. So can I suggest that if you're going to continue in this manner, that you submit your questions to the director in writing as per the Code of Meeting Practice, and you will receive a response by council memo.
So now what you're trying to tell me, Mayor, that I'm not allowed to ask questions in open council.
That is not what I said, Councillor Olsen. I made my ruling based on the Code of Meeting Practice that said they're entitled to be to provided the questions with notice, that sufficient notice, and that you're not. I don't believe you're actually asking these questions both respectfully or without argument, and you are currently debating the responses being provided. So I believe the actions you're taking place you outside of the Code of Meeting Practice, and therefore I'm asking you to abide by the Code of Meeting Practice, and if you're not going to do that tonight, I would ask you to put them in writing to the director.
Right, after that long spiel, I'm entitled to ask questions, and if the director or staff member cannot answer the question, they're allowed to take it on notice and give me an answer in writing. So I'm still allowed to ask questions. You aren't reading the whole rule out. So anyway, next question. Let's move on to page 7 of 8 in the final enclosure on page 337 about infrastructure assets. The cost to bring assets to an agreed service level. Estimated cost to bring assets to an agreed service level set by council, $235 million. Am I reading that correct?
That's the figure that's reported in the statements, Councillor Olsen, so yes.
Thank you. So at this point in time, we sit here telling everybody we're in a very good financial position, but just to get our assets to an agreed service level, we need $235 million. Did anyone else read that? I don't know, but I know I did, and I know I'm worried. I'm worried that that's to an agreed service level. So if you're talking about roads, 1 being worse, 5 being the best, we're talking about 3, level 3 of roads. That's not even a good road. That's just been a repaired road. 235 million just to get it up to there now. So our financial position is real rosy. We get told we've got $600,000 left balance on the balance sheet. If we didn't sell Vineyard Grove, we would have been $2.5 million in the red. We've also been getting a lot of grant money. A lot of grant money, which 66 million grants last year, that is going to slow down with both state and federal governments running out of money. So where's that put this council and fixing our road network? Great to have a financial report that says we've got a lot of money and we've got all this money, but go and tell that to the resident out in the street that drives on our roads. Go and drive along Orange Street at Abmain. Go drive between Kitchener and Abernethy. Go drive along Mount View Road. I could name every street in Cessnock. I think there's not a street in Cessnock that wouldn't have a pothole, and they're not getting fixed properly. But 235 million, where do we find that sort of money from? So don't sit here and pat yourselves on the back, because I'm sure you will, and you'll have a go at me. That's fine. I can wear it. But be honest with the people out in the street. Be honest with the people out there. If we don't change what we do in here, nothing's going to change out there. And I'm all for improving the road network. I've been fighting it for 20 odd years, and here we are now, $235 million to get it up to a level 3. It's very poor leadership.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel that's a bit unfair, really, to try and fire them questions at the director, Councillor Olsen. And as a business person, you should know that on the 30th of June, from the 30th of June...
Sorry, I have a point of order from Councillor Olsen.
We don't need to attack councillors. When we're speaking, we talk about the issue we're debating. I can say whatever I like, I don't attack the other councillors.
So you made your point of order.
Yep.
I was just saying, okay, Director, fire this straight at you. Obviously, as a business person myself, on the 30th of June, my figures change again the week after. So the figures change. If you've got blokes on annual leave, blokes who've just retired, blokes who've gone on long service leave. So it's hard to say that figure on the 30th of June is the same figure in a week later. Correct?
Director.
Thank you, Mayor Savale. Yes, Councillor Moores, as you pointed out, and as the independent chair pointed out, it is at a point in time, and the results a week later or the week before would be totally different due to a number of factors.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Val. My question on this issue, as raised there by Councillor Olsen, in regards to the funding shortfall for the estimated cost to bring assets to an agreed service level by council, I would just put the question to Councillor Olsen as to whether or not he has reviewed the meeting minutes of the Roads Review Committee held in, on the 13th of July this year, wherein a request, I believe, that was brought forward by Councillor Jerd was addressed at that meeting in regards to how we would go about funding any future requirement for that maintenance.
Councillor Olsen, there's a question.
I can't remember what you're talking about. I'll take that on notice. I'll take it on notice for you. All right?
Thank you. He's taken it on notice. Moving on to Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in regards to the grants, it is a significant amount, and I think it's a fantastic thing that this council is able to get over $60 million worth of grants to support our local community, and therefore a huge various projects. Some of them are for roads, some of them for other projects within the community. You look at things like the splash pad and the cycleways and different parks that we've got. If we didn't get those grants, unfortunately, it's not rocket science to work it out that this council does not have enough rate base, enough ratepayers to offset the costs ongoingly. And 100% agree that roads are something that we should be working on, and we are always working on. I've sat in so many briefings and workshops over my time on this council, working with staff on how we can improve that backlog that's been happening for years. It's not just the last 12 months. It's been happening for 30 or 40 years. So this is a problem that this council, and not just this council, but every council inherits, because whatever happened in the past, we certainly can't change it. But for one thing I am for is looking to the future and working out how we can fix that. I don't believe in just asking those questions. I believe in being part of the solution and working with staff in those workshops, and which I'll continue to do. One thing that I do take comfort with is not everything that we do goes to plan, and there are some things that happen out of our control, natural disasters and those types of things. But in the report on the agenda of 203, it mentions there our cash expense cover ratio, and that's improved in the last 12 months. And that the benchmark is 3 months. So realistically, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is that we would be able to keep paying our bills for 10 months. So that means that we are a little bit ahead. That means that some of the things that we are implementing in this council are working, because we are getting a little bit by little bit better in that area. I totally agree that roads need more work. That's not, that's everybody knows that. But what I guess the point I will make around the roads is think about what impacts we've had over the little bit of time. Yep, our roads were not the best before the floods, then that they were, I guess, made worse after the floods, and we continue to have weather, and I'm certainly not blaming it on that, but the point I'm trying to make is that we as a council need to continue with the services that we've got, continue to try and fix the roads that have been broken for 30 or 40 years, and not all of us councillors have been here for that long. There are some that have been here for a period of time. But we're also trying to repair the roads that were wrecked during the floods. So we are also suffering with staffing issues, just like every other place in Australia is hurting getting staff. So when you're trying to put roads, fixing roads, you're trying to make sure the cemeteries are kept clean, you're trying to make sure the parks are safe for our young people. We aren't just about roads, we have other services. So therefore, when we are struggling, and like other businesses are, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take us time. But one thing that I'm committed to is continuing to turn up to the briefings, turn up to the workshops, be part of the solution rather than just asking what the problem is.
Thank you. With no further debate, we'll now put the item. All those in favour, recommendation. Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Savell. Those against, Councillors Olsen and Jerd. I'll declare it carried. Now moving to report GMU 30 and would invite back Jennifer Hayes to make any further additional comment should she wish in relation to this report that wasn't covered off in the previous segment. Over. Yep, good to go.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy that I've spoken to the report and very happy to take any further questions from Council on our annual report.
Are there any questions in relation to the Audit and Risk Committee annual report? Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. From previous experience on the audit committee, we always had an issue about deliverables, and I'm just wondering, are you satisfied that we are at a level now where we're getting through the audits at an appropriate speed?
Thank you, Councillor Dunn, for the question. And yes, Councillor Dunn had been on the committee for a term with me. We had a period of time where internal audits were slow to be brought to our review. Pleasingly, I would say we are now receiving upwards of 8 internal audits a year. With Arun joining as an internal auditor, we have got a really good flow of internal audits covering a range of operational and strategic risks, and working actively with management to bring those to the consideration and review of us to help assist you in your assurance duties around those risks. So I think pleasingly, progressively over the last 3 years, we've gone from maybe 2 a year up towards 8 to 10 a year, which is really good, with actions addressed and with commitment from management to make sure that those actions are addressed in a timely manner. Yep.
Thank you. No further questions. Please again thank Ms Hayes.
Thank you.
We'll now move to report GMU 30 2022. Moving that way, Councillor Dunn, seconded Councillor Burke. In debate, no debate, we'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Savell. Those against, Councillors Olsen and Jerd. I'll declare it carried. Now moving to consideration and adoption of reports by Englobo. Is not moving that way, so we'll move on to mayoral minutes. Moving to MM 15 2022 regarding the ANZ branch closure of Cessnock. I'll move that way, and speaking to that, I think it's important that as council we take the opportunity to speak up when things like this happen in our community and let big businesses and banks like the ANZ that are making record profits at the moment and are just walking away from regional communities. It's really disappointing to see. We in Cessnock have had quite good engagement with the ANZ over many years, especially in regards to local events and sponsorship. And there's a significant concern, I know, in the community that those things would disappear now that there's no local branch. It also will make it difficult for our local residents. I know we have a significant number of elderly residents that would find it difficult to travel to places, whether that be Maitland or Singleton or further afield, to actually visit an ANZ branch. When the ANZ contacted me to advise me that this is the direction that they were going in the community, I took the opportunity to let them know my own personal views that I wasn't supportive of this, and asked them to reconsider, and I didn't think it was a good thing to be happening in our town, and hence I'm now moving this way and asking council to put forward their views to ANZ, and hopefully have the matter dealt with, but to also look at what can be done at a federal level. I think it's worth writing to Dan Ripicoli, who's the local federal MP, to see if anything can be done at a broader approach to making banks actually continue to deliver the services that are actually needed in the local community. So I'll move that way. No, speaking, Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mayor. When you move this motion, like your letter that you're going to send off, are you going to ask them, is this because they're pushing towards this digital identity, that they won't need the banks because they want most people off cash and onto credit cards? Is that going to be something that you're going to ask if that's why they're closing the branch?
That was listed in their reasons of why they were closing, so they did follow up the conversation with me with an email, and
Yep.
one of the things was actually from them saying that they believe a lot of people are now using online services and not going into the banks.
Okay.
So that, yes.
Okay, next question. Would it help to get, because I've seen it a lot, I'm pretty sure you would have seen it a lot on Facebook, the talk of people saying that they're going to change banks now that ANZ are changing, are going to close. Is that something that we can add to the letter, that we know that there's a lot of people that still prefer to use cash and they're going to lose a lot of trade here in Cessnock if they decide?
Yes, we can include that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Moores.
Thank you, Mayor. One thing I'll say about this is it's very disappointing because if you look at the manager, who's Louise Hanson first served me in 1979 and she was a teller, just left school. So our up-and-coming kids that want to go and work in the banks, obviously there's going to be less banks. And also, when I inquired about the ANZ closing, where would the old people, where would they get the money changed over? They said they were going to send out a letter to them, letting them know where the tellers will be placed in the town. They haven't got them in there, but they will get them in, they said.
Thank you. No further debate. We'll put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Now moving on to MM16 2022. Merrill Minute emailed out to everyone today. I'll move that way. And speaking on that, it came to my attention that that the Department of Planning have actually approved the implementation of what's called Urban One allotments in the Huntley development. That is allows lot sizes of between 217 square metres and 354 square metres. So these are quite significantly small lots. I have great concern around that happening in our community, and that I don't believe it actually is in the best interest of the community. The lots, council provided feedback around this, but there's lots that are, like, we don't have sufficient public transport to support this level of development. They're not compatible in what I believe in our local government area is still mostly a rural and regional local government area. These are things that I would more likely expect in higher density cities. And the argument that they could be more affordable housing, I think, is blown out of the water when they're talking about some advertised prices of around over $850,000. That's not what I would consider affordable, and is more likely to be something that an investor would buy and rent out. And there's also no consideration given around these lots to the on-street car parking that might be needed to deal with housing around this, and the extra the extra cars that are going to be around that area, because as I said at the front, there's not sufficient public transport to cope with this. So people need a car, and you end up with multiple cars per household, and they'll end up on the streets, and the streets are not built to deal with this. So I am quite disappointed that this was approved through the State Department of Planning. I think we should be writing to the minister and asking them to overturn that decision, and also sending a copy to our state member and asking him to make representations to the minister on our behalf around this, because if we don't speak up, then these things just go through as is. We've got an uphill battle to fight against it. I would encourage many people in the community that are not happy with this to also get on board and write to the minister around it, because it's something that I've noticed in council seeking feedback around the DCP for the Huntley area, the amount of people that raise concerns in that process around the potential of these small lots. And I think it's something that the community will not be happy about, and they won't be happy in the quite almost secretive way that this has been approved and not gone out to actually have council or the public have any real say on it. So in saying that, I'll put the resolution open up for further debate. Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually really glad to see that you have a mayoral minute on this one, because when I seen Huntley was on our agenda and heard rumours that state had already passed this, I was quite concerned, because is this because they want to turn Cessnock into a smart city like Lower Hunter, Newcastle City, Central Coast City, Illawarra, Shoalhaven City, Western Parkland City, Central River City, and Eastern Harbour City? The Inside Local Government website describes the six-city vision, that they envision a connected region of 6 cities where we can move people and goods across the region in 90 minutes, and everyone in the region is digitally and globally connected in a nanosecond. In each city, great jobs are 30 minutes by public transport from great homes. We enjoy a greater range of lifestyle choices connected to economic opportunities, and most people live in vibrant local centres and neighbourhoods where all daily needs are met within a 15-minute walk. So that was on the Inside Local. So I can only see that this is why we are pushing to have 217 square metre blocks, as there won't be any need for a car to park on the street, because everything will be in your smart city and you'll be able to walk or get public transport. So I'm really glad that we're going to push back and say we do not want 217 square metre blocks in our city. Thank you.
Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I'm totally concerned about this, with a precedent being set in our local government area to have minimum lot sizes reduced down to as low as 217 square metres. It's ridiculous. It's just madness to think that we could do that, or the state government could do that, the Department of Planning could do that to us. When, if it's a precedent set there, then is it going to happen in other areas where they're going to go, oh, well, you've done it out there, or you want it somewhere else? And that's what happens. All of a sudden you get 1 foot in the door, and next thing you know, the whole door's wide open. So I'm concerned about that. I know of a development application over in East Cessnock where they want to get the blocks down to 217 squares. It should have been refused before it got into the door, but it's going through the process. My other concern is, what are we doing here? Why is it the state government can come along and say, yeah, you can do that out there? Why can't we look after our area? That's what we're elected to do. You know, we're here to represent the people that come to the meetings or watch it at home or have a problem with whatever's going on. Why do they just jump in and say, that's okay, you live in Sydney, not up here. You don't see how much trouble it is to get from one point to the next point. Everyone has to have a car to get anywhere, otherwise you can't go anywhere. So I'm stunned that the state government's just gone bang, there you go, it's done, don't worry about what council says. And I'm worried about the precedent for other blocks in our local area, because we've cut them down to a bare minimum now and destroyed some of our areas like Aberdare and West Cessnock, etc., and it's a shame. I'd hate to see any more blocks going down. I'd hate to see any blocks go down under 450, but this is going to go down even further.
Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share your concerns. The only thing, actually, I was just going to comment on what you mentioned about making representations or sending the correspondence to our state member, Clayton Barr. Like you just said, encouraging this, the community to really get behind this and let them know our disappointment and their disappointment. And I encourage the community to write to Clayton Barr, our state member, email, message, visit the office, because I think when our state member makes representations, we don't want to be just sending a letter. We want him to go down there and really knock on the door and let them know that we're not happy about this and really represent the community on this matter. So encouraging the community to write to Clayton Barr, so therefore when he does go, it's not just council with him knocking on the door, it's the community as well.
Councillor Moores.
Thank you, Mayor. What I can't get my head around here is Sydney can just turn around and say, bang, yes, go ahead, on this size blocks. Yet ever since I've been on council, the size blocks have come to the people here that's wanting to put second homes on a block, and we're saying, no, it's too small. And here we are now at 200. So one thing's laughing at the other here, and if I'm a resident sat at home now saying, well, I've just been knocked back, and yet they're putting these 200 at Huntley. So what they've got to realise in Sydney is, mate, they're causing a lot of friction. It will be in the town, and also, we're a town of trains, planes, and automobiles. We haven't got any trains here, and we've got no bloody flights here. And there's only one way you can travel, is exactly as you said, is by car, which will be packed out. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move that way and put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Moving on to motions of urgency. Councillor Olsen.
Yep, Mayor, I have had a number of residents on Old Maitland Road contact me in the last 24 hours. They're concerned that on Saturday the section that's been prepared for sealing is going to be sealed, and they're going to have to access it from Sawyers Gully Road. Their problem is, if they're going to have to access from Sawyers Gully Road, there's a 10-tonne load limit on that road, and they're concerned that the contractors will access the section they are going to seal with load limit of 10 tonne on the road, and a number of historical culverts could be damaged from them trucks coming through. These residents want assurance that if they're going to come through there, there'll be no damage done to these culverts. And they also have been asking me, are they going to be doing any more roads, and will all 21 bends be straightened as originally proposed? So it's an urgency motion, Mayor, because this is going to happen on Saturday.
And so what is the actual motion, or is it?
They want assurance that the contractors will not damage the historical culverts on Old Maitland Road in the 21 bends. At the moment, they're historically listed, and if they get damaged, you can't repair them. And there's 10-tonne load limit on there. I don't know how you can get trucks along there to do the work.
So, just on this, it doesn't really appear to be a motion of directing council to do anything, and this is something about contractors. So, it might be something that we ask the general manager to take that as a question on notice and provide response back to councillors regarding that information. Is that general manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, happy to do that. Sorry?
Is happy to follow it up and come back to councillors.
So we can give, I can ring these residents tomorrow and give them assurance that no culverts will be damaged.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have no prior knowledge of what you're talking about, so I can't answer that question right now. I said I'll take it on notice and do some research and get you an answer tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. No further motions of urgency. We'll now move on to report GMU 31 2022, minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on 27th October. Moved Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Sander. No debate. We'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Now moving to report PE 65 2022, development application additions to the Bellbird Hotel. Moving that way is Councillor Dunn with an additional.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pinson. I do have an additional, Mayor Pinson, Mayor Savile. I do have an additional dot point to put on the end of that the General Manager holds discussions with the applicant / owners of the site as part of the Section 138 process with a view to increasing the provision of on-street parking in Waratah Street.
Seconded Councillor Burke. Speaking on that incident.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Savile. After the site inspection today, those councillors that were at the site inspection would most likely agree that there seems to be a lot more room for formalised car parking in Waratah Street than is actually on the plan. And for us to have those conversations with the proponent just allows us to open the door to possibly increasing the on-street parking in that street.
Thank you. Councillor Painter.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm in favour of this. The only way that these old buildings are going to be maintained properly is through viable businesses, as they're lovely old buildings and they take a lot of maintenance. And so if council and council staff can approach the developer with an attitude of getting a resolution that's favourable for the community, because I'm sure we all want it restored and kept in good order, that would be a good outcome for us and for the community as a whole. And I appreciate those who are at the meeting this afternoon to have that resolution put forward.
No further debate. We'll now put the resolution. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Moving to report PE 66 2022, moved Councillor Burke, seconded by Councillor Sander. No debate. I'll put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Report PE 67 2022, Urban Growth Management Plan. Moving that way with the resolution on screen, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Grine. No debate on that one. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Report PE 68 2022, Huntley Planning Agreement. Moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Sander. No debate. Put Councillor Jerd.
Sorry, can I quickly ask a quick question? I thought this was to do with the one that we did just before with your mayoral minute. So this is just to say that it's been on public notification, is that right?
The Director.
Thank you, Mayor Savile. No, this is a completely different issue. This is a voluntary planning agreement between council and the developer, and it's been in place for quite some time, in fact, since the beginning of the development. And as it goes through, it gets amended. We've had a review of it to make sure we're getting the maximum contributions we can from the developer, and that's reflected in this deed.
Yeah, so back to what it was, what I thought it was. Thank you.
Okay, with no further debate, we'll put the item. All those in favour? So, Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter, Olsen, Saval. Those against, Councillor Jerd. I'll declare it carried. Report number PE 69, 2022. Moving that way, Councillor Dunn, seconded Councillor Burke. Speaking, Councillor Burke. Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Val. This is a contentious one with respect to us having to deal with a lot of the issues in this agritourism planning reforms report, specifically around camping and produce trails, and also limits to DAs with regard to where we can build around vineyards and distances from fences. So I'm fully aware that there is a timeline around the legislation, and it needs to be back with the state government, and they are waiting for this. I'd just like to flag and allow the community to understand that Council is going to be afforded the opportunity with Singleton Council to speak with the Hunter Tourism Association and the Vineyards working groups to allow them to deal with a lot of the issues that have come up. But unfortunately, that will be after we adopt this, but to assure the community that there will be further opportunities for us to make small adjustments to this, given that we are adopting this. Well, we may adopt this tonight.
Okay. No further debate. Put the item. All those in favour? Is unanimous. Moving to report CC 87, 2022, annual report. Moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Sander. All those, no debate. Councillor Jerd.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, my role as a councillor I take quite seriously, like the rest of yous here, as I do not understand this report really well. I'm going to have to vote no, as I don't understand it financially enough to make a decision properly. So thank you.
Okay. With no further debates, I'll put the item. All those in favour is Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Painter, Olsen and Saval. Those against, Councillor Jerd. CC 88, September 2022 review the delivery program. Moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Hill. Speaking on that one, Councillor Jerd.
Just as above, I don't understand it really well, and it would be nice to have a little bit more training so I can read these guys really well. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, I just one question. It says in the point 3, the forecast capital expenditure budget of 73 million. How much of that's been spent so far, and what are we looking like getting done out of that this term, per financial year?
To the Chief Financial Officer.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, we've spent just over 20 odd million. 15 million year to date. 15 million. The forecast is uncertain at this stage. We'll know better by the end of the second quarter as we start identifying programs being weather affected, so that we can then push them out into next year's delivery program. So I'd expect to have a closer answer for you. Like 70 million is unlikely to occur.
Can I just ask one more question? Is that 15 million up to now or to the quarter?
Oh, sorry, that's to the end of September.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just I know that every year we don't get all our work done, and we keep promising we're going to improve and we're going to get it done and we're going to get it done properly. Fingers crossed.
Okay. With no further debate, put the item. All those in favour? Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grine, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter, Olsen and Saval. Those against, Councillor Jerd. I'll declare it carried. Moving on to report CC 89, 2022. Quarterly budget review statement. Moved Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Dunn. No debate. We'll move that way. All those in favour is Councillor Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grine, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter, Olsen. Is that a hand up? Yeah, Olsen and Saval. Those against, Councillor Jerd. I'll declare it carried. Moving to CC 90, 2022, schedule of ordinary meetings for 2023. Moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Hill. No debate. Put the motion. All those in favour. Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grine, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter, Jerd and Saval. Those against, Councillor Olsen. Declare it carried. Moving on to report CC 91, 2022, ward boundaries. Moving that way was Councillor Sander and Councillor Burke. Speaking on that is Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, Mayor, I just want to make a comment on this. Last time we made these adjustments, I can't remember, I was on council, I remember doing it. And what we did, we didn't look to the future. We looked at what affected some other councillors and who was going to lose something and who was going to gain something. Obviously, Ward B is the slowest growing ward of all. It's in town, there's not a lot of development left in it. Ward A is going to grow enormously with Bellbird, and in Ward C with Huntley, and same in Ward D. So when we are looking at this, it's going to have to change very soon. As you can see, Ward B's stuck on 10,000. It's been there for a while. It's only gone up 300 people in the last, 4 years. And where Ward A gone up over 1,000, D gone up over 2,000. So when we're looking at this, we need to look at which way we expand Ward B out, so that when Ward A continues to grow and when Ward C continues to grow, that we get a good balance for a good 10 to 12 years, so people know what ward we're in. So I just want to make that point, because the last time we did it, we took Kersley and give it to Ward B, but the boundaries around it are still Ward A and C, and it's a crazy mix-up because it goes back into the train line and it comes back out and around. It's a crazy mix-up way that we've done that. It should have, originally Ward B should have went straight out into Ward A, because that's where we knew all the development was going back when we done this. So it's just about forward thinking, and I just want to make those comments so when staff start working on what boundaries we should be changing, that we look at where the growth areas are and move forward positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Olsen. I'll just make the comment that the director at the briefing we had on this one did make similar remarks around forward planning in regards to these wards. So I'm sure that will be coming up when this report, if it's needed, when it's dealt with. Councillor Sander.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly the growth of our community is evident by the 18%. I mean, the Electoral Commission give us 10%. We've grown by 18%, 8% over the given in the state. So the community out there certainly need to know this. They certainly not blind to the growth we've got, but to make a prudent point, if we're growing this fast, we're going to have to keep up with our the infrastructure that we have. We've mentioned the roads today, this evening, we've mentioned the roads, we've got the schools, we've got all the infrastructure just blowing out. We need to keep up with progress, and certainly the ward boundaries, the community need to know where people are living, where they're choosing to live. And as councillors, we're going to have a workshop early next year, and we will have a bit of a discussion in regard to what distribution we feel is fair and reasonable for the community. But we need to certainly keep on the federal governments, the state governments, in regard to how our community is developing. Everybody likes to live here, but we've got to have the infrastructure to balance that out. Thank you.
Councillor Moores.
Thank you. Mayor, I agree with Councillor Olsen that we should take into consideration the wards to make sure that the people in the wards are getting well looked after, and B ward is not left as a small ward, and A is a huge ward with all the estates going in, and that way then it's not going to be looked after as much as what it is if it's equalled out perfectly.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Saval. I'm not sure who can answer this question, but who is it that looks after, I know we're talking about ward distribution now, but who actually looks after council boundary distribution? I know I read the other day somewhere there was a review going on at the moment with respect to the boundaries between councils. I'm just curious as to know, how do we become more updated on that?
Director.
Thank you, Ms. Saval. Councillor Dunn, I believe the review you're talking about is the review of the Boundaries Commission and the ways that statutory board operates. That comes into play where two councils are talking about a change of council boundary alignments, not within the ward structure, which is in our own local government area. But certainly there's a circular that's been distributed from the Office of Local Government that was talking about the Boundary Commission. So certainly you could go on their website and have a look at that if you wanted more information, how that body works. But that's about boundary adjustments between councils, not within electoral boundaries within the LGA.
So given that, is that something that they look at, not having had anything to do with that before, is that something that they look at with all councils or specific councils, just between certain councils that need ward boundaries electoral boundaries?
So the Boundaries Commission is the statutory body. If a council or a number of councils want to do boundary adjustments, you've got to go through a certain process. They review those submissions and make recommendations to the government. So that's sort of a bit of a statutory body, a bit like IPARC does a lot of that legwork for the government. The review of what they're doing doesn't necessarily need to involve council at this stage, unless you have some aspirations about expanding our council boundaries into other areas.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the only reason I asked that question is, for example, the council boundaries between us and Singleton that basically divide Branxton. You know, I would have thought that would have been an opportunity somewhere along the line for us to make representations with Singleton Council to deal with that a little bit better. That was my reasoning for the question.
Thank you. In that instance, yes, that would be a discussion point between the two councils. You then have to go through a range of discussions with your community, put a proposal together, and that proposal would go off to the Boundaries Commission for them to consider, and they would make a recommendation to the government.
Thank you. No further debate. Put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Moving on to report CC 92 2022, minutes of the Strategic and Property and Community Facilities Committee. Moved Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Dunn. No debate. We'll put the item. All those in favour? Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter, Olsen and Saval. Those against, Councillor Jerd. I'll declare it carried. Moving on to report CC 93 2022, investment report. Moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Hill. No debate. Put the item. All those in favour? Is Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter, Olsen and Saval. Those against, Councillor Jerd. Declare it carried. Report CC 94 2022 resolutions tracking report. Move that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Grind. With no debate, we'll move that way. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Moving to reports WI 71 2022, tender for Camp Road Greeter. Moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Hill. Speaking on that, Councillor Olsen.
Yep, I'm just, as I said, I've only just got home from a holiday. I'm not fully up on this, but from what I can understand, we put it out the tender, we got one tender. It's overvalued, it's over what we could afford to pay. So what's our plan of attack now? Does council do the work ourselves?
The Acting Director.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the question, Councillor Olsen. Yes, the plan is to deliver it internally.
So what I asked earlier about the work we've got to do, this is adding more work to what we've already got to do. Are we going to be able to manage all the work we've got plus this?
I suppose in relation to the price we got back from the market, it was unfeasible to do it externally.
Yep.
In order to resolve the problem and improve the condition of the road. We can do it internally. It means we have to consider our other projects and make a decision on what we are able to do and what we aren't able to do. There's an opportunity come up based on the works program to deliver this internally, and so we've taken that opportunity.
Yeah. Do you have any idea when it possibly would be started?
Director.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The plan is for this work to be started early in the new year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No further debate. Put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. WI 72 2022. Moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Sander. Speaking on that, Councillor Olsen.
Yes, Mayor Pinson, we can't have Mayor Saval, we can't have recommendations coming back from an inquire Community Engagement Awards Committee. They can't make recommendations without a full quorum there, so this report should be sent back until they do have a full committee to make decisions. Otherwise, why have a committee? What are we having a committee for if we're not going to get the committee to vote on it? All committee members need to be attended, or the quorum to be able to put in recommendations to council. So this report should be rejected and sent back to them to be finalised by the full committee. I'll move that way.
So that's an amendment. Are you?
I want it to go back to the committee when they've got a full court vote of people there to be able to make the decisions, because they cannot make recommendations for council if they're not a full committee.
Can I just clarify before we go through? These aren't recommendations from the thing. These are recommendations that were put forward to the committee that are recommendations from council officers, and council as a whole has the right to accept or change any whether the committee met and was quorate or not. Council is the final decision making. So regardless of what the committee decides, the outcome comes to the full council, and the full council has the final decision making power. So therefore,
I understand that, Mayor, and there should be no report come back because there should have been no meeting. They can't have a meeting and they haven't got a full quota of people there. There's no meeting, so there's no report. So it needs to be removed from council. It needs to be sent back to the committee to review.
So is your, we'll move on to your amendment then. So is your amendment seconded? Is seconded by Councillor Jerd.
Yeah, I'll speak on that, Mayor Pinson. We've done this, Mayor Savelle, we've done this before, and I don't support this. Would you support recommendations coming back from a General Manuals Review Committee if there's only one person there? No. Why do we set it from here? We've got to be consistent with everything we do, and this is not consistency. If you're not consistent, then we're going to change the rules and bend the rules to suit whatever we want, and that's not good leadership. For me, this has got to go back and be voted on by the committee, what they want, even if it comes back exactly the same. And I know that we can change any recommendation in that. I know that. But if the committee doesn't meet and doesn't decide to make a decision, this is a staff report. That's all it is. It's not a committee report. So I can't see how we can support it.
Speaking, Councillor.
Yeah, I've got to say this really does frustrate me because Councillor Olsen made reference to the General Manager's Review Committee. Councillor Olsen is on that review committee and he has not turned up to the last two meetings of that committee.
So, point of order from Councillor Olsen.
Do you ever read a report? I was on holidays and I had an apology in.
Yeah, that one. So, what about the one before?
So,
anyway,
and
then the last road review committee, you never turned up for without an apology. It's okay.
Councillors, we are not here to run these individual attacks at each other across the chamber. So, there's now no further debate on the amendment. So, speaking on the amendment, Councillor Burr.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to vote against Councillor Olsen's amendment, only because if you look at who was present, there was the Mayor, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Grant and myself. While there wasn't a quorum, there was enough councillors present at that meeting to form that meeting. If there was 4 councillors that are on that committee and they didn't show, there was a couple of apologies from Councillor Sander and Councillor Moores, but there was no apologies from the other 2 councillors. I just think that we can put this through because there were enough people at that meeting.
Okay, no further debate on the amendment. Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry. Can I just seek clarification for what quorum actually would be? There was 8 professional staff members involved in this, 3 councillors plus the mayor. Who were the alternate delegates for this committee?
The director.
Thank you. So I can't recall the exact membership of the committee. The officers in attendance aren't voting members on that committee. They are the delegated councillors and the alternates, and the general manager is a voting member on that committee. Obviously, the councillors that were there, the quorum would have been 5 if we had 4 in attendance, and we didn't have enough for that to be a quorate meeting.
So do we have a policy that is if you're going to be an apology, you notify the alternate delegate? I know Councillor Olsen and I have worked, I think, quite successfully. If I've been unavailable for the traffic committee, I notify him and he clears his schedule. Do we have that? Is that a policy for all of these committees?
The director.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins, it's not a policy per se, but obviously council appoints their council laws to that and appoints in appropriate circumstances delegates to alternate delegates in case that councillors are unavailable. But I would think good practice would be if you are a member of a committee and you know you're not going to be able to attend, you endeavour to make sure that the alternate members or members are available to there so that the quorum can be met.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's anything we can, maybe if it's not a policy we could implement, it's certainly something we could all work towards as a team, making sure this sort of thing doesn't happen so that we can get the best recommendations from committees. I mean, I'm happy having read the report and made investigations to make a decision on this, but I just think that if other councillors need a committee recommendation, then we should probably put every effort into to get these committee recommendations for their benefit. So I think, yeah.
Thank you. Is there a question?
Yeah, I just need a point of clarification, if I may, Mayor, we just heard it was 8 staff members there and only 2 committee members of council. I just want councillors. I just wondering who runs the council, the councillors or the staff?
I believe the committee makeup is actually 5 councillors from memory, with 2 alternates councillors, and then the general manager or their delegate has 1 appointee to that.
So councillors run that committee, not staff. So it's a council decision, and it should come back to council as a decision. Yeah. Go.
Speaking, Councillor Grine.
Thank you, Ms. Val.
No.
I was actually in that meeting. I'm not part of that committee, but I was there. You're welcome. And had I had voting rights, I would have voted in the same, if that helps. But yet again, I did show up to the meeting, which I get very frustrated at, Councillor Olsen, because I actually do show up to these committee meetings and I take them seriously. And when councillors do not inform us and don't show up, and I won't point any fingers, but you know who you are, I just find it's disappointing. Exactly.
Okay. We'll now deal with the amendment. So all those in favour of Councillor Olsen's amendment is Councillor Painter, Olsen and Jerd. Those against, Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins and Savell. Declare the amendment lost. We'll now move to the original item. So moving that way, all those in favour is Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins and Savell. Those against, Councillors Painter, Olsen and Jerd. I'll declare it carried. Moving on to report number WI 73 2022. The minutes of the local traffic committee held on the 17th of October. Moving that way, is there an amendment coming, Councillor Hill, on that one? So.
Thank you, Mayor Savell. I would like to, if I can, amend the second dot point, TC 40 2022, to remove the installation of one-way traffic flow. Or just perhaps remove one-way traffic flow. And if I'm able to just briefly speak on the reasoning for that.
Seconder
amendment.
for that, Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. This matter in particular in relation to Wickham Street in front of Stanford Merthyr Infant School was previously considered at a traffic committee meeting prior to this council being elected back in October. It was recommended that the conditions as stated there now in the dot point in regards to a children's crossing, curb extensions and associated signage and line marking on Wickham Street was already currently suggested previously by the traffic committee, and this new recommendation from the traffic committee to install one-way traffic flow, I believe will likely result in a less safe traffic environment around this street and the resulting street that traffic would be forced to travel along in that area. Wickham Street is one of the main streets for travel through Stanford Merthyr. It allows sort of access between John Renshaw and Lang Street in Curry for the residents there of Stanford Merthyr, and the resulting traffic direction that would be caused if Wickham Street was made one way north to south would mean traffic would have to turn on a less than 90-degree turn to make their way back towards Lang Street. And I just don't believe that that is also in the best interest for the whole community, while I do agree with the other changes there to help increase safety in front of the school in regards to a bus stop moving and to ensure those young children there can cross from the bus stop to the school. I don't believe that the one-way traffic flow suits the community either. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Olsen.
Are we allowed to change a recommendation from the traffic committee? I haven't been before.
Do you want?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Traffic Committee makes recommendations to the Council. Council is the approving body for those recommendations. Council can send it back to the Traffic Committee to be revised and possibly taking your recommendation forward. To my knowledge, I haven't yet been present when a Traffic Committee recommendation was overruled by Council.
So what we need to do is send it back to the Traffic Committee, not make any recommendations of taking out the one-way, because that was decided by the police and Transport New South Wales, wherever else was on the committee. So we need to send that back to the Traffic Committee with our concerns on one-way street. I have no problem with it being taken out of a one-way street to normal whatever, but I do have concerns that we can't change. I've tried that before in council, and I've been told you cannot change them, you have to send them back. So this is what I'm supporting here, is it goes back to the Traffic Committee for review. And that's what it should be done. That's the way it should be done.
So the suggestion is that we should refer it back to the Traffic Committee. Sorry, Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, just refer it back to the Traffic Committee with the recommendations that Councillor Hill has made to say we don't want the one-way street and the reasons why we don't want one-way street. I'll support that 100%, but I just want to make sure we do it the right way and not overrule what we can't overrule.
Yep. So so we'll need to move that second dot point down to the bottom, and that noting that be referred back to the Traffic Committee. And yeah, sorry, we just haven't finished the thing. So we'll need that be noted, and we can't have the top line as adopted as a resolution. We'll need to note the minutes of the Traffic Committee, excluding, so from after 2022, excluding TC 40 2022, be adopted, and that and then that the second dot point is that the council recommends the Traffic Committee reconsider TC 40. Yeah, noting concerns around the one-way street. So just have to reconsider in that point. We just need TC 40 2022. And we can delete the bulb. Okay, comfortable with that?
Previously, a dot point or a recommendation from the Traffic Committee, I believe it was in reference to a plan for the corner of Ferguson and Doyle Street in regards to 2 stop signs. That was a dot point that was just wholly removed. Am I correct then that amendments would be things that would need to be then taken back to the committee, but perhaps rejection of recommendations is okay to be done at the council itself? Is that correct?
I do recall that item and was just thinking of the same thing myself. I think we can. I think the safest thing for us to do is either approve the recommendations or not approve the recommendation. And to amend the recommendation at this point, it's probably best to refer back.
Because in this instance, I would need clarification on it, but there should be an existing resolution to accept a previous recommendation for this location that I was referring to. which doesn't include the one-way street. So the previous traffic committee meeting in October 2021 approved the changes as I had written as amended. So perhaps if we were to simply remove the recommendation from this meeting, should that then just mean that the previous resolution still stands? And that would avoid any need for going back to the committee and waiting till it next meets and amending it and coming back to a future committee. Pardon? I'm not sure.
We'd have to seek clarification on that process.
If that's fine. I'm happy to carry with the amendment as written then for now, and if I could get a response from the relevant officer in regards to the correct process, just in case something like this comes up again at a future meeting.
Yeah, we'll ask the acting director to provide that information. Councillor Burke is the seconder. You're comfortable with that. Speaking on this item now, Councillor Moores.
Thank you, Mayor. If it just casts my memory back, I'm sure, didn't we just say that the stop sign stayed there? And that was it?
So, if that's a question, yes, that was the thing. But what council chose to do in that point was not accept that recommendation at all, and just left it off, rather than actually amended the outcome.
So surely if he pulls this tonight, I mean, people on the traffic committee here would know whether if he pulls it tonight, it just dissolves it.
Yes, but there were other.
That's what it originally was.
So the one-way street was not the only item as part of that recommendation. There were other traffic signage and line marking and other items as part of that resolution, and so they still potentially need approval of council to be undertaken if they weren't covered in the previous traffic committee resolution. So that's why we can't just exclude it wholly at this point.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Councillor Dunn.
Mayor Saval, I just have a question with respect to the funding of this. To my knowledge, is there something associated with grant funding for this amendment? And if so, if we reject it, and there is grant funding associated with the works on that street, is it going to affect it in any way?
The director.
Thanks, Councillor Dunn. I'll just have to take that on notice and confirm if that's all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hawkins.
Sorry. This is done as part of the school zone infrastructure program that we were successful in gaining grant funding for back in October of 2021. The original proposal was TC 49 2021. It incorporates moving the bus stop, installing the curb, or etc. This proposal came back because in addition to that, they wanted to include a one-way street which diverted northbound traffic, etc. So I think if council were to refuse TC 40, TC 49 2021 would be the standing policy for that. There were 3 schools from memory that got that and they've already been implemented. This one has been not in our delivery program. I think it sits in our delivery program, correct me if I'm wrong, where the proposal, the request from the school, I think it came, was to upgrade the proposal to include one-way street. So that's what the traffic committee have investigated. If council were of a mind to do that, this is what they've recommended the statutory requirements for it. However, if council are of the opinion that it would be preferable to maintain two-way street access, TC 49 2021 would remain in effect, and it would be what we would deliver, I would expect, fairly soon, fairly quickly.
The director.
Thanks, Councillor Hawkins. Yes, I don't have an exact date on the delivery program, but yes, it would be soon.
Thank you.
Okay, so no further debate. Comfortable with the recommendation or item in front of us? I think that was asked earlier, and the advice was we were unsure if it would revert back to that or not, given there's been a further traffic committee recommendation, and that they would have to take it on notice. So, if we want to go in the direction that you're suggesting, we potentially run the risk of having no recommendation if we do go down in this path. At least it's there as something. So,
Mayor, it is there with something. TC 49 of 2021 is a resolution of council. It's in, I believe it's in the delivery program. It's just been held over for this matter to be considered. If this matter is not adopted by council, the standing policy stands and we implement that.
so the amendment would be to just remove dot point 2 completely.
Well, reject TC 40 for the reason that we believe TC 49 of 2021 is a better proposal for the community. Is a preferred proposal of the council.
Yeah, is that something you're taking on, Councillor Hill? So the amendment was to dot point 2. I think it would just. So it would just remove completely is the preference, and then therefore the only resolution of the traffic committee would be the one from October last year. Is that?
I'll take on board, but I think we would have to do something with TC 40 of 2022.
No, because we've noted the top, the top that we're accepting it, excluding that. So,
Do we
so
Ferguson Street was no
if we
action.
leave, yeah.
With respect, the Ferguson Street stop sign was no action required to remove the stop sign. This, we still require the actions of the previous resolution, the TC 49 2021.
Yeah.
Until it's been resolved
So can
and
I
refused or adopted.
can I ask the minute taker to just throw that dot point back up, and that we note that council rather than recommend, so say council not endorse, and then remove recommend, the traffic committee, and then rather than reconsider, say endorse TC, noting concerns around the one-way street.
And revert to the approved TC 49/2021.
And so to previously approved TC 49/2021. Yep. Comfortable? Everyone? Yep. Clear as mud? Okay. I will ask councillors that potentially in future meetings we might consider all of these things and submit them in advance, as to not do this in the meeting in the future. But we'll now move that way. All those in favour is Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burt, Grine, Sander, Hill, Hawkins and Saval. Those against, Councillors Olsen and Jerd. I'll declare it carried. Moving on to report BN 31. Had Councillor Jerd's withdrawn that. So moving on to report BN 32. Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, before I move the motion, Mayor Saval, can I just ask you two questions? Do you have employment outside of being mayor?
Your question to me?
Yeah.
Currently, no.
You don't have employment?
No.
You've resigned from that position, have you?
As a I don't have any employment other than being mayor at the current time.
Okay. So that's not what I've been told. You work for a federal politician.
As I just clarified, Councillor Olsen,
Okay.
I have no current employment
You're not
other
employed.
than in my role as mayor.
Okay. So since you've been mayor, you've only had one position, that's been mayor.
No, not since I've had mayor. That wasn't the question.
You have had another position
I've had a number of positions.
outside of being mayor.
Yes, as I'm entitled to.
Yeah, I never said you couldn't.
Yeah.
I never said you couldn't, because you were saying to people before the election that I wouldn't make a good mayor because I work full time.
And as I've just clarified, that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
So when did you finish your last position?
I don't know how this
I'm not allowed
is.
to ask that question.
So
Why not?
this is in relation, like you've got to be. I
Okay.
don't even think we've moved a motion or asked any things like.
I'll move on to the motion there. The mayor, when the mayor is performing his duties in another role other than mayor of Cessnock, the mayoral car is passed on to the deputy mayor to fulfil his role required as acting mayor. There have been many a times that you've been out.
So is the motion seconded, Councillor Jerd?
There's been many times you've been out of the area. We've had committee meetings cancelled, etc., because you're not here.
Sorry, Councillor Olsen, that's incorrect.
Oh, it's incorrect. How do you know?
There's been no committee meetings cancelled
Nothing.
due to my
No briefings, no nothing.
attendance because I've attended the ones that I've been required to, or if have been unavailable for unwell, but usually either attend in person or online.
Okay. So while you're not performing your duties as the mayor, the car the mayor has is a council-owned car, and the deputy mayor has to fill in for you. The deputy mayor should be entitled to have that car to do the role of whatever the mayor is supposed to be doing. And I don't see any reason why that car should be left in your carport or taken out shopping or whatever you do with it outside of your duties as mayor, and rely on the deputy mayor who's been complaining to me about how much work he's been left to do by you. So
Councillor Olsen has the floor.
Does he want to apologise for that?
Yeah. So Councillor Olsen
Well,
has
he made the
Councillor Olsen
complaint.
has the floor.
He made the complaint, and I said, well, maybe we should make sure we get the mayoral car for you. And he said that would be a great idea if you would put the motion up. So I put it up for him. I don't know why. I'm sure he's going to support me on this one because he asked me to put it up. And while you sit there and smile and laugh, Mayor, as many times he said to me that he's filling in, he's doing probably 15 to 20 hours a week as filling in for you, and you're out of town. Now, otherwise our deputy mayor's been lying to me. I don't know. I'm only doing what he asked me to do, and he said that it would be better if it come from me, not from him, because he is the deputy mayor and he's going to get a benefit out of it. But now, by the look of it, and the way everyone seems to think it's so funny that we have a mayoral car that is so important to do your duties that it's not being used to do council duties all the time. It's being used for other benefits for other people, and it should be passed on like any other car. It should be passed on to the person that needs it to fulfil the duties of mayor.
Councillor Painter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions. Do we have a council policy on the mayoral car?
Do you want manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, the use of car by the mayor is covered in your council expenses and facilities policy, which is council adopted on the 20th of April this year.
Right. And the second question is the council policy as it stands at the moment being adhered to?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the council policy is being fully adhered to by now.
Thank you.
Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to Councillor Olsen, if I may. Councillor Olsen, were you Deputy Mayor to Mayor Davey when she was Mayor of this council? So at that time, did you get access to the Mayor's vehicle? Oh, so you didn't do anything as Deputy Mayor? Okay, no worries. Thank you for answering that. Firstly, we do have a policy in place that Councillor Painter has just asked questions to. And as we've heard on numerous times before, that the council vehicle that's used by the Mayor is able to be used at their discretion, though Councillor or Mayor Saval is one of the first mayors, to my understanding, that actually pays this council for their personal use. For any personal use that Mayor Saval has, he pays for. And you can scoff at that, but that's the truth. If you want the truth to be dealt with, that's the truth. Mayor Saval, do you pay Cessnock City Council for your employment when you were employed? Did you pay council for the kilometres that you used on the car?
Councillor Burke, yes, I reimburse council out of my mayoral allowance as per the policy for any private kilometres that I do.
Thank you. So the Mayor pays council for the use other than council uses. And I've been Deputy Mayor, and I could not think of anything worse than having to drive to council, pick up the car, drive to the event, drive back to council, then drive home. If I want to do something as a councillor, or for that fact, our Deputy Mayor wants to do something for this council, we all have the right to claim back mileage that we use. We have a councillor's expenses policy that allows us to claim. So to come in here and accuse the Mayor of doing something that he hasn't done, accusing the Mayor of not coping or not acting within the guidelines, is not on, because it's not true.
Point of order from Councillor Olsen.
I have never made any accusations you weren't working outside the guidelines. Did I?
You mentioned about the personal use. You
Yeah,
asked about the personal
use.
use
My
of the work.
my point was made.
Councillor Olsen.
While he was doing other work, the car goes to the Deputy Mayor. I never said he wasn't allowed to.
So
that's point of order.
So point of order, Councillor Olsen was reconfirming that he's not accusing me, nor am
Sure.
I operating
That's great. Take that
outside
on
of the
board.
policy.
That's great.
No, that's what I've just said.
That's what he just said. In the last term of council, Councillor Olsen had an issue with Mayor Pinsent using the car. Then he had an issue with the size of the car. Now there's an issue, a new issue with this mayor and having to bring it back when they're not using it for personal use. We have a policy. It's adopted by this council. Mayor Saval is adhering to that policy. So therefore, realistically, it's end of story.
Councillor Moores.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want your car because I don't think so, Ian. I've got a brand new car of my own, and if you look at the car he's driving, I don't want to get in it myself. So as far as I'm concerned, and it would be in your contract anyway, that car. So why am I going to take your car and get out of a brand new one and get into your car, which one's trading in? Thank you.
Thank you. For your closing debate, Councillor Olsen, so I'll go to Councillor Hawkins. So,
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to weigh into this. It really does. So I probably should start by saying, in my opinion, which apparently qualifies me to say anything I want, whether it's factual or not, in my opinion, there's some sort of a, there's some sort of a health issue with these sorts of motions. You seem somewhat obsessed with the current mayor. I know you had no problem when the mayor was driving. Council had...
Point of order from Council.
Mayoral.
I think
I'm just
Councillor
clarifying
Olsen.
the mayoral vehicle. And we could...
Councillor
No, we could
Olsen,
go through
Councillor
some-
Hawkins has
We
the
could
floor.
go through some history of the mayoral vehicle, which I'm sure you'll remember in 20 years, that there was no problem when the mayoral vehicle was a Prius, we had to go out and specifically purchase an electric vehicle because that was the current mayor's choice. Whether anybody cared, that was her choice. She was running a business and she used that car for whatever she needed, whatever she chose, because that was part of council's policy. Prior to that, we had a mayor that liked a Holden Statesman, and that was his choice. Prior to that, if you remember, we had a mayor that liked a Holden Statesman. It was a silver one. It was that beautiful that he was allowed to use it whilst operating a trucking business. Now, that was within council's policies, so nobody had a problem with it. We even didn't have a problem with that vehicle, so much so that council identified it with Mayor 1 number plates. Now, talk about an exercise in vanity, but you seem to not have a problem with that. In fact, you tell everybody that he was the best mayor ever. So now here we come to this mayor, who not only is still driving a second-hand vehicle that wasn't replaced by the last mayor when the term was extended and the car was due to be renewed, here we are with the mayor who not only is driving a second-hand vehicle, he's the first person to, if you recall the draft proposal when it was the policy, it even highlighted in red the parts that were added in that mentioned reimbursement of kilometres. First mayor ever that I'm aware of. Happy to be corrected if that's slipped my mind. But again, in my opinion, this is the most fair and reasonable mayor we've had. He's a young man trying to raise a family in our town. He's part of our community. And he acknowledges that there's going to be times when a vehicle will be used other than mayoral official duties. It's not practical, like Councillor Burke said. Bring it back because you're not going to drive it this afternoon and you've asked someone to fill in for you to represent our community, our council, in front of our community. It's the most ridiculous concept I've ever heard. And you've come up with some good ones in your time. This is one of the best. This is just completely impractical. Anybody that is performing official council duties can lodge a travel expenses claim. There's a form, you do. That's what happens.
Hey,
That's what happens when the councillors are representing official
Councillor
council
Olsen.
business. Keep going, that's fine. That's what happens. There's a policy, the expenses and facilities policy to reimburse councillors. I'm pretty sure you can all do it for even attending council meetings, attending council briefings. That's our policy. If the deputy mayor has a problem with our policy, I think he should ask to have it changed. I don't see this on his behalf, I'll change it for you, mate, because things change. We're not making a policy determined by the employment of the mayor this week, last month, next year. There's a policy. It's in place. We play the man, not the ball. We'll play the ball, not the man. In this case, the ball's moved and you're still playing the man because there is no policy. I would have thought that somebody in this report who had the highest reimbursement of expenses of any councillor listed, you would understand how our reimbursement policy goes and our travel expense claim policy. I would have thought, here it is endorsed in this meeting tonight. Here it is endorsed. Now, you have the fair knowledge, after 20 years of lodging claims, expenses, policies, here it is, was written in red for you in the draft policy.
Councillor Olsen, Councillor Hawkins has the floor.
It was adopted by council that may all, quote, the mayor may also be used for
Was
private
that a
purposes
point of order,
subject to
Councillor Olsen,
proper
or-
payment where appropriate.
Pause for Councillor Olsen, point of order.
Are we debating about the mayoral car or about what Councillor Olsen's done? It just seems like this is what happens at every council meeting when I have a different idea to other people. All I get is attack from other people.
That's not a point of order. I believe
okay.
Councillor
This
Hawkins
isn't
is
about
referring
having
to
a different
the policy
idea.
in
This
the
is about
motion.
consistency, and this is about the implementation of council's policies. The policy clearly states if any deputy mayor has had a problem with it, then they would be the ones that raise this. And I'm pretty sure that the mayor would accommodate them by lending them the vehicle if it was required. He would go out of his way to be inconvenienced, as Councillor Burke described the extent of the inconvenience of this proposal you're putting forward. We have a policy that reimburses travel expenses. Our expenses and facilities policy are quite generous. It even goes as far as reimbursing childcare expenses if they're required for your activities as a council member.
Councillor Hawkins' time. Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, but just before I close debate, Mayor, can you clarify, have you used a mirror vehicle to travel to any other employment?
As I stated before, Councillor Olsen, I have operated within the guidelines.
That's not
of
the
policy.
question, Mayor. The question was, have you used the council mayoral car
I
to
have,
attend other work?
and I have provided you with my response.
So obviously then you have, because you're failing to say yes or no.
Councillor Olsen, we're not here to debate responses to questions. That is not in accordance
haven't
with
answered the
Code of Meeting
question.
Practice. I did answer the question. You might not like the answer, but I answered the question.
So, okay, I'm assuming that you do use the vehicle to attend other employment because you haven't denied it tonight. Now, this guidelines we talk about, the guidelines were set by this current council to make sure that the mayor could take the car wherever he went and reimburse. Now, why is it that we have to supply a vehicle for a mayor that's doing other things in it? Why is it it's so important to attend to his duties that he's got to have a four-wheel drive? Why is it so important? Because our roads are so bad, because the mayor finds it's easier just to take the council car wherever he goes, wherever work he goes to, whatever job he's at, whether it's be at council or wherever. He is not always fulfilling the role as mayor. The mayoral car is for the mayor to fulfil the duties of mayor, and I know the policy says he can take it wherever he wants, but that's not helping the other people that's doing his role. But if you want to keep it going that way, that's fine, because we're not here to look after the people. We're here to make sure the mayor's got a car.
We'll now put the item, all those in support of Councillor Olsen's motion, it's Councillor Olsen and Councillor Jerd. Those against, it's Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Saval. I'll declare it lost. We'll now move on to report BN 33, 2022. Councillor Jerd.
Thank you, Mayor. I seek leave to move this motion on behalf of Councillor Watton.
Thank you, Councillor Jerd. Leave is granted to do that.
Okay.
So moving that way.
Alrighty.
Seconded by Councillor Olsen.
Alrighty. So the motion is for permanent security CCTV cameras at Huntley District Park. Motion that the General Manager, 1, liaise, support and work alongside LWP Huntley to install a fully operational CCTV security camera system within the new Huntley District Park, similar to Bridges Hill Park. 2, research appropriate relevant grants that may be able to assist in further protecting this community asset with said surveillance technology. Councillor Watton had to have leave this month and did not want this issue to be sitting on the shelf until he comes back in December. He's quite passionate about this new park not getting vandalised. It's only just opened and already there's been vandalism. So this is why he's been working with a few members to make sure that we look after this great new park. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking Councillor Moores.
I could speak on this because where Councillor Watton was with myself when we was out there, I was had the privilege to open that park, and that morning at 5 a.m. they were washing graffiti off all the toilets, which was pretty badly done. And obviously it has to have something done, and that's where they decided that if they couldn't put it on the shelf, it had to come by from council. They wouldn't it wouldn't get it passed under the Spying Act or whatever you call it, Perving Act. So this is where it all came from, with Councillor Warren and myself listening to what they wanted, and what they wanted is obviously some CCTV cameras there to stop this damage being done.
Yeah.
And if we spend that much money on that park, well, we haven't spent too much on it, but what I'm saying is it's a good park and we should put some sort of surveillance on it.
Thank you. Now moving to Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Saval. I'm in support of this motion. I've spoken with Councillor Watton once or twice recently in discussions about some other parks in our LGA, including the Peace Park there in Weston, and I think that it would be good to see this situation here in Huntly and monitor how effective it is, because I think that a solution like this could be relevant for other parks in our LGA, and I think this is a good spot to start to see how effective this security camera system can be. Thank you.
Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I do support this motion. I think it's a blight on our society today that you build a decent park for kids and people vandalise it straight away. They've done it at Bridges Hill Park, you know, everything. We try, council tries and developers try to give people something to use, and then we've got to put CCTV cameras in to hopefully protect it. But the problem is these young kids still get out there, or it could be old ones as well. Whoever gets out there, they get hoodies on and everything, and you can't see their faces all the time, so you can't recognise them. But we've got to try. We've got to do whatever we can to keep these parks in good condition, because it costs this council a lot of money to get rid of graffiti and et cetera, and any damage that's done. So I fully support Councillor Watton in his motion, and hopefully we can get some grants and get these in as quick as we can, so they don't get damaged anymore, and we have a decent, we can maintain the parks we have at a decent level.
Thank you, Councillor Grine.
Thank you, Mayor Saval. I support Councillor Watton's motion here as well. I would just like to ask a question in regards to Bridges Hill. With the security surveillance systems that we currently do have, who monitors that? And is it police, or where does it go back to?
Yeah. The acting director.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Grine. I'd have to take that question on notice and find out.
Right. The director. Cool.
Thank you. The cameras at Bridges Hill aren't monitored like CCTV, say in the centre of town and the like, but they do record actions and activities there which we can use to hopefully identify those people that do the wrong thing.
Councillor Sander.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I certainly support this notice of motion from Councillor Watton. Again, my question was to who manages the CCTV. If we're looking to go down this path, we must have a look at, basically in Globo area of, you know, we've got one park, we've got two parks, we've got 6 parks. We need to have some process where these offenders can be identified, and we can do some really good things about managing this, and we don't want the vandalism and the likes, because it certainly costs council hundreds of thousands of dollars through the year, and if we can manage this well, it's a bonus for council and the community.
Councillor Painter.
Yeah, I'm also in support of it too, Mayor. My question was, if I'm not sure if it can be answered or taken on notice, is with the monitoring and the footage, does it get deleted after a certain period of time if there's no incidents, to protect people's privacy and images, that kind of thing?
Director.
Yeah, thank you. It really depends on the cameras and where they are, but yes, certainly we don't keep the footage forever and a day, and they get kept for a certain period of time. I can't tell you what that period of time is, and they are deleted, but they certainly are available, have been used by the police to identify individuals and the like, and there are a lot of rules and regulations around who has access to them and what agencies and the like can actually view and get extracts from those videos.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, with no further debate, we'll put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Moving on to report CO 21/2022. Moving that way, Councillor Burke, seconded Councillor Sander. Just while we're on this item, I think I should just take the opportunity. We've spoken earlier tonight, and this item's around the RFS Red Fleet. Just to reaffirm our council's support of the work that's done by the Rural Fire Service volunteers. We are very appreciative of the work they do in our community. This isn't a reflection on them. The discussions around this matter are around the financial bookkeeping side of this in relation to what is essentially the trucks that are the RFS operate that are purchased through the state. They're placed somewhere or sold by the state, that council have no control over any of that, but somehow the state thinks they're council assets, and we should, our community should cover the costs of the depreciation of those vehicles. We have rightly, I believe, made a stance against that, and not imposing that cost on our community, and not wanting to see this as potentially the thin edge of the wedge of where we start accounting for it, and then the next question is they start expecting councils to pay for a service that has otherwise been paid for by the state government. So I'm pleased of our fight against the Red Fleet depreciation issue. Disappointed that it ended up in a qualified audit, but that is a decision of the audit office, not and not, I believe, a reflection on us as a council. And again, just want to say thank you to the great work that the RFS volunteers do in our community, as we're going to be heading through what could potentially be a hot summer that we haven't had for a while. Really thank them. We'll put the item, all those in favour. It's unanimous. Moving on to report CO 22/2022. Moving that way, Councillor Dunn, seconded Councillor Burke. Speaking, Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Zaval. I just, firstly, when I read the correspondence from Senator McLaren-Jones, I was a little bit disappointed in the way it read, but I'd like people in the community and councillors to understand that there's an element of bureaucracy that goes with these letters back to council, and I'd like to rest assured to the community that there's a lot happening in the background, and we've been having almost daily dialogue with the Senator's office, the Minister's office through her Chief of Staff, and hopefully come the December meeting we'll have some really good news to come out of this, and it's something that the community will be very appreciative of.
Thank you. So moving that way, all those in favour, it's unanimous. Councillor reports. No reports. On that note, I will close the meeting. Thank you, councillors.